is Guy Seehey, and you're listening to the Retro Unlin Network.
Correctly with the correct amount.
And now for our feature presentation.
It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the Untitled Movie Show for Wednesday, March 25th, 2015. I'm, of course, your master toastmaster, Mr. Miguel Leon, and we've got here a veritable kingsman of reviewers here tonight. We've got Mr. Michael Burhan.
Oh, Captain, my Captain, what are thee?
And Dave, you actually know the movie that I'm talking about, so what will be your code name? Dave Wade.
I have no code name. I'm that cool.
He likes them shaken, not stirred.
How about you, Annina? Would you like a cool Britishy sounding code name?
Sorry. You put me on the spot, and I'm crap at being put on the spot. And it's not Annina, it's Annina.
Don't do that. I promise. You said you wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you wouldn't do that.
Strike two. I apologise.
That better be the last one.
But
and
yes,
he was
you just heard
known
these.
as Dave Wade.
Yes,
he was known
exactly.
before Annina killed him with his own intestines.
Before he was sacked by
my
the
code
BBC.
name will be the Killer, because if you get me angry, you better run. And my boyfriend, boyfriend will attest to this. You get me angry, you better run. Just run.
You guys need like cooler Britishy sounding names like Lancelot or Galahad or something like that.
Or once every fortnight.
Galahad sounds kind of. Oh no, dig up, Dave. I can say it sounds kind of puffy. Sorry.
And yes, tonight's our news episode, if you hadn't noticed. But first, I really want to talk about this. If you hadn't noticed my references to said film, I finally got a chance to see The Kingsman. Yes, I went on a date with a friend of mine Saturday night, and we went to go see The Kingsman. Thankfully, she likes action movies, so she actually thanked me because she would have never seen the movie had I not actually brought her to see it, and she loved it. And I really did like this movie. Since I've seen it, I've kind of cooled down a little bit because I thought it was like the greatest thing I had ever seen when I first came out of it. But as I've cooled down on it, it's a slow movie to start, but the third act is so awesome, it makes up for it in my opinion.
Didn't you find the slow build-up, like, wasn't like other movies where you kind of like, oh, I'm just waiting for it to kick in. It was all relevant in...
It was all character development. That's why I'm not too... Yeah, that's why I'm not too bugged about it. But like I said, based on the trailers, I went into it thinking it was going to be wall-to-wall action, and it's not so much wall-to-wall action. There's character development in there in the first and most of the second half, but by the time the third half kicks in and really a lot of the spy stuff that you see in the trailer really kicks up, it really does really have a lot of fun with it. I mean, I think Matthew Vaughn really kicked it out of the park with this. It's one of the reasons why I got to watch Kick-Ass sometime, because he was the director of that as well, and I really want to see, because if his style was in that it was in The Kingsman, I think I'm really going to enjoy that film. But Dave, you've actually seen the movie. Without going too much into spoilers, what'd you think of it?
I really liked it, and it's funny you mentioned about the start, which is all, as you said, all character development. Lots of people of my mates just went, oh, it was boring, I was a yawn fest at the start, I was just waiting for I wanted more Bourne Identity and shit like that, and I went, no, it's not that movie. And I'm probably the only person, you can laugh at me for saying this, but I got a tiny whiff of Tinker Tailor's, Spy about this. It was there's a definite feel of proper old school about this movie. Like,
oh my God! I mean, when you consider the cast, I mean, the cast was to die for. I mean, when you had Colin Firth, Michael Caine, Mark Strong, which I'm a mark for Mark Strong. I know that's redundant, but
by the way, just random tangent. I was having an argument with someone the other day because I'm still not a big fan, even though I finally forced myself to watch the entire season and it wasn't that bad, of the new Doctor. And someone said, "Well, who would you have picked for the new Doctor Who?" My ex, he said, Colin Firth.
I could see that. I'd be totally fine with him. I think he really was he was probably one of the most interesting characters of the first half of the film. I loved any time he popped up, especially a lot of the scenes with him and Samuel L. Jackson, who I thought really nailed it as the kind of modern day, what you would consider a Bond villain. He was basically encompassing that. It wasn't the flashy, suited, over the top guy. I mean, he wore a backwards hat and, a track suit, and was basically Mark Zuckerberging it up. But you know, he was
just a man. He had his job to do, and he knew what he wanted to do, and he knew what he wanted to achieve, and so it was like, why would I be a flash break? Do you know?
I do like the whole running gag of him not liking blood. You know, the sight of blood. And the one scene that always gets me is when he takes out the one character, which we're not going to say who for the sake of spoilers. We're not going to do that, but he does end up killing one character, and he turns to his assistant. He's like, "Is that what it feels like to shoot somebody?" It's like, "Yeah, it's awesome." No, it's terrible. I never want to do that again.
Well,
like it was just. Yeah.
This guy ties into news. There's a rumor that when it comes out on DVD that there's going to be, and it will probably be one of those tiny different ones that they normally do, but they always slap the word extended on the front, but that there's going to be an extended cut if you buy the Blu-ray. But don't quote me on that, people. Just saying that's
I might have to get that because I really dug it. I'll say this, Dave, the best use of pomp and circumstance I could ever imagine. I mean, I'm even going to say it's better than when the Macho Man uses it. That scene when pomp and circumstance breaks out is awesome. And I'm not going to say what happens. You can Google search it if you'd like, but it is an amazingly awesome scene. And I will say, now that I've actually seen the ending, I actually was surprised they went for the money shot on that one. I honestly, that last image that they show, I'm like, huh, you actually went there. Like it's this movie is so an R rating, and it's glorious. It really is.
I'm guessing you haven't seen it, Burhan, or I resisted then, Annina.
No, I haven't seen it as of yet. Reason being, I haven't had anyone to go to much watch it. I'll probably watch it when it comes to DVD.
It's like I said, it's a build. The first half is a lot of build up, and it probably would resonate more with you guys since it's very much a British story. You know, it's a very British heavy cast. So I don't know. You guys might have a different viewpoint of the start than I would. You probably would look in and be like, it would probably resonate more with you than it did with me. But I still enjoyed it a lot.
Did you actually find the start kind of chorish? I mean, I know you said it was character development, which it is, but I don't know.
You know what the problem is the trailers made the movie seem like it was going to be very campy, over-the-top, tongue-in-cheek action, and the first half is somewhat serious, you know, and that's what kind of threw me off.
It made it out to be a Bond film.
Not even a Bond film. I'm thinking almost in the tongue-in-cheek of like campy '60s spy movie meets the A-Team. Like that's what. Almost like that, yeah. Almost like the Avengers of sorts, and not the Marvel Avengers, the British Avengers.
Yeah.
Something like that. But the first half,
they have to call it Avengers Assemble in this country.
It's the exact reason. But the first half really is character development. You really do see the lifestyle of the main character and kind of his build. I mean, and I'll say this: it's a very cliched build up. It doesn't really take any twists and turns with it. But like I said, it all makes sense because when it does get to the end scene and it's wall-to-wall action, yeah, it's very much a payoff. You know,
if I had to equate the start of the movie to something, do you know what I would? This is a bit cliche, but I said to my friends, you said like, oh, it started slow and this and that, you know, and like you said, it's character development. I would kind of equate it to lighting the fuse on something and waiting for it to count down because it was necessary. And then it basically lit the way for the explosion that is the glorious second half of the movie.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for good use of good soundtracks, and between Pomp and Circumstance and when Freebird kicks in, that scene, I really... And that goes back to the action. I love the action in this movie because it was filmed it was a consistent action scenes. Like, the scenes were filmed, you know, no camera cuts. It was all just camera movements. But I saw a lot of fisheye usage. I saw a lot of odd camera filters and whatnot. It was very stylized. I would say almost Tarantino, Kill Bill-esque. Because I wouldn't say Tarantino, because Tarantino's not really known for action, but it has a very Hong Kong feel to it. It's very smooth, and I really did dug that in a time when, you know, we really have a lot of
Did you say I very dig Doug?
Yeah, I stumbled over my words there.
No, it's a reference to a great 80s game, sorry.
Yeah, but I really dug the way that the movie was shot from its action sequences, and that Freebird scene really does show how well choreographed the action in this movie is, and it just keeps going from there. So for those of you who have not seen it yet, like I said, it's a slow start, but the slow start is deliberate. once it kicks into the second half and especially into the third act, I think you're really going to enjoy it. I really dug this movie.
The start is worth it, and I would say this to people: if you feel put off when we say, "Oh, it's a slow start," trust me, we're not doing it credit in the sense that when you sit there and you think, "Oh, this is slow, this is slow, this is slow," when the penny finally drops after it and it's set everything up and developed all the characters, your brain will go, "That was worth it."
Mm-hmm. And like I said, best use of pomp and circumstance ever. That one scene, like, folks, I'll say this: if we're not selling you on the movie, look up Kingsman Pomp and Circumstance on YouTube. The clip's got to be on there. Find it. It's awesome. I'm sorry. It was one of those moments where I'm just sitting there with a smile on my face because I'm a sucker for a good action sequence timed with good music, and that combination was just perfect. I really do dig that movie a lot. That's going to be on my Blu-ray shelf soon enough once it comes out. But let's move on to something that I think everybody else can. What was that?
Fingers crossed that we do get the extended version I read about.
I wouldn't mind that, honestly. I dig an extended cut. You know, I like to have the total package.
I think it would just be dialogue scenes, though.
Probably. It depends on where it ends up. I mean, you know, maybe they'll have an extended ending, you know, because the ending that the controversial ending really isn't the ending. And I really did like the fact that they did pay off that angle because that angle is so prevalent in the first half. And then by the second half, they kind of drop it. But when they do the mid-credits ending scene, I really did appreciate that they kind of gave us the comeuppance for that story arc, you know. And you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really...
It was awesome, that bit. And you know what? That's a slightly different tangent, but that's a throwback to, you know, I guess kind of the Marvel movies, which is now I actually sit through the entire credits of a film.
Yeah, I did too, because I remember I was sitting there, and I had a feeling that it was going to keep going just from the way it's set up. But I saw people piling out, and then when it started to pull, when the camera started to pull out, and you realized there was more to it, then people came back into the theater. But like I said, I like that. And I'll say this about the quote-unquote controversial ending. Given how the movie picks up with its action and its gratuity, there really was only way that was the only way that scene could end. And I think the fact that it does kind of come out of nowhere kind of makes it even funnier because you don't think they're really going to go there, and then they do, and it's like, good on you. You went there, movie. Good for you.
I like that. I like when movies do that, where they kind of like throw you outside the box. So you don't
literally, the event that leads up to the event that happens in the ending just comes out of nowhere. Like literally, it's just sitting there. Like the whole theater started laughing because it's just you don't expect it to happen, and then it does, and then they follow up on it, and you're kind of like, you're kind of in on the joke with the movie. You know, it's I guess prudes would have probably been offended by it, but I wasn't because by that point the movie just had me. It had me by the balls, and I liked it.
Cool. I'm going to watch this thing, then I have to figure out what it is that he talked about.
Now, a quick tangent before we move on to the news, actually. You said you were going to go see Cinderella soon, Burhan, because I know you're a fan of Kevin Branagh, and yeah. I mentioned it to you because I saw the trailer. One of the trailers they had there was for Cinderella.
Yeah.
I think that's Branagh's wheelhouse. You know, I said it before when we did when we talked about Thor, when we did the Phase 1 retrospective. He seems like a very flashy, Old English kind of Shakespearean director, and I think an environment like Cinderella.
The majority of stuff that he's directed is Shakespearean, so yeah.
Yes, so I think the environment that Cinderella lends it to would probably be more in his wheelhouse. Almost, he seems like almost a Shakespearean Baz Luhrmann, if I can really make the assumption there.
That's a really good descriptive term.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't like these Disney live movie rehashes that they keep doing. I'm not a fan of them, and I'll be honest, blatantly honest. The only reason I'd go to see this movie is because Kenneth Branagh directed it. Because one, I got to work with him on set. He said very nice things to me, so you know he got my pants to the floor. Secondly, it's also the fact that he's very creative in what he does, you know, and thirdly, he's English, But the thing about it is, I think Disney keeps overhyping. They keep going to the well, so to speak, as they've done with a lot of their cartoon adaptations that they turn into live-action movies. And what they tend to do is they tend to go with that whole wicked approach of things, you know, where, oh, well, she's not all that bad, you know, there's a reason why she's a bitch, and you don't really, I don't know, I'm two ways about it. It's like
the justifying evil.
Yeah, but to me, this one, Cinderella seems to be we're just telling Cinderella's story rather than Maleficent was. This is her side of what happened, and I actually enjoyed Maleficent, but I'm not interested in Cinderella one.
I can't watch it because I can't pronounce it.
Because it seems like there's nothing new in this new Cinderella, if you know what I mean. There's no new edge. Apparently, I heard because my day job is at the cinema, I heard a customer coming out and going, I can't believe her waist is so thin. Like, they really CGI'd her waist to be the size of the cartoons, which is literally, you know, unrealistic. Completely unrealistic.
Yeah. No, that's something I want to talk about, though, really, really quickly, which is I can't believe the fallout and the flack that's got, because, and you know what, I'm not one of those people who's superficial and goes, oh, you know, I only, you know, like stick thin girls and stick thin? I just put P, stick thin girls and stuff, because when someone asked me, said, like, don't you think this is insulting? My brain just went like this, and, you know, people find what I'm about to say make me, like, chauvinistic or stupid or stuff like that. My brain just went, I have no problem with it whatsoever because it's a fairy tale. You never complained about the fact that the fucking pumpkin got turned into a, you know, a horse and cart. It's, yeah, maybe it is. I don't see this even which is portraying women in the wrong way. And no, it's just a fairy tale. I don't think people walk away from Cinderella and go, God damn it, why don't women have stick thin waists like that? I think they just went, no, that's because it's Cinderella. They leave their baggage in the cinema, if you know what I mean. I really don't understand why that thing's got so much flack.
Because she's a role model for kids.
That's exactly why, you know. It's the role model aspect. If it was just, you know, like in a cartoon,
I think that's not giving kids enough credit, though.
Yeah. Why is Cinderella
so stupid that they just go, I want to be like her. Cinderella got no waist.
Dave, she wasn't stick thin in the cartoon. This is what the problem lies. It's like, my oldest daughter, I remember once she came up to me and goes, I've been told by my friends at school that I need to lose weight. And I'm like, so they go, who the fuck is telling you? Oh, I'm not telling her that, but that's what I was thinking. I was like,
I hope you track them down and kick them into the sun.
Oh, you know, I've only been in trouble once for tripping over.
No, but you know what I'm saying?
I remember being about 9 and asking my mum if I was fat.
Yeah,
obviously, she went, don't be silly, but, you know, I was 9.
Well, it's unrealistic.
And I had a body of a 9-year-old. And I remember that situation. I went, Mom, do you think I'm fat? Do you know what I mean? So it does affect kids in a way. Obviously, it's not everyone's going to go, you have to look like that, but it does have a subconscious effect. Yeah. And I think it's stupid because, you know, they already said, oh, she was in a corset, but we thought we'd CGI it anyway. I mean, the girl is probably a size 0 to start with. That's, you know, they've gone to the extreme.
The thing is, I think... The problem is when you've got kids, especially those at the age range who are supposed to be seeing this, that's where the problem lies. Because you're looking
retract my statement because now I sound like a complete asshole.
But your target market is like 3-year-olds to probably 12-year-olds. Within that market, these kids are going to feel it. And the problem I have with stuff like this is you're creating an expectation that you shouldn't be creating. It shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be acting this way, and you shouldn't be making little kids feel that they're too fat. And I agree with Annina's point on this.
That's not what I was saying, though. You know that. That wasn't me.
I agree with you to an extent on that, but Cinderella had a waist in the cartoons. In every adaptation. It's only now they want to make her look like a fucking size 0. It's like, Disney, get a fucking life, for God's sake, and know the market that you're catering this to, because you don't want kids who feel really insecure in this day and age. I don't know what the frick for, because my daughter basically takes after me, so she's kind of big boned like her dad. But, you know, you've got to look at it and sit there and go, okay, maybe we've gone a bit too far. Maybe we should look at programs like Mad Men and look at the fact that you don't have to have a size 0 waist to look beautiful, or look at the fact that models with actually more realistic waists actually are more popular and sell more merchandise than those who have nothing. You know, it's
Yeah, but to be fair though, that's such a misconception because those models keep them. Those models are a much thicker proportion, but they also keep themselves in very good shape by comparison. You know, it's I always it always irritates me when people go, oh, there's plus size models. I'm like, yeah, but do you realize what kind of conditioning they go through just to be able to keep themselves all together now?
Yeah,
Like
Miguel, that's fine.
they still put effort into it to make themselves look good, even though they have they have a much fuller figure, obviously.
No, but they're healthy.
My big issue with this whole thing is, in terms of this whole thing is, first off, why is Cinderella a role model? Somebody said that, and it's a storybook. It's a story that was told back in the day that she's a character. She's not somebody that should be looked up to. She's just a character in a story. If we're trying to
that would be looked up to. That's the
have
thing.
they?
Yeah.
I don't see that. I mean, you could say that if it was like Belle or something, or
princess thing that they've done. The fact that every kid on the planet wants to dress up like a princess now. My daughters do.
But that's not role models. That's good marketing. I mean, they managed to market their product well.
They're characters that these kids look up to. It's like me looking up to the Power Rangers when I was younger. It's at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You know, kids. And I'm not saying kids are stupid. I'm just saying that's the way that kids are. When they're attracted to something, they look up to it. That's their role model. And you can't sit there and argue with an 8-year-old and say, why is your role model a damsel in distress? I don't understand. It's like.
Well, kids don't even see the damsel in distress thing. They just see,
person,
pretty dresses and it's
I don't even think they I don't even think they see role models. I just think they see a character. Yeah, I think they just see a character in a movie. I don't think that they see all that. I don't think they think as deep as everybody thinks they are. Honestly, the only reason I think that this is even an issue today is because we're on such a feminist high right now. You have a lot of women going up there. It's like, oh, men made her thin for this movie. That's horrible. That's so sexist. And I'm like, back off. It's just a movie. It's just a movie. I don't begrudge, movies that are aimed to women for having, guys with six packs in there and disproportionately muscular bodies. So why is this an issue?
It's just a movie. That's the thing. You've got to look at your market base. It's not like you and me. If me and you go see a movie, I'm not exactly going to look at Dwayne The Rock Johnson and go, I want to be a big black man who's got unrealistic expectations, is basically on growth hormones. I'm just going to look at it and go, hey, that's The Rock doing his thing in a movie.
We are forgetting, though, that it is a fairy tale.
Yeah, but it's a kid's movie. It's dedicated to children. It's something that 9 times out of 10 your market are going to be kids, unless you're a pervert who has to sit there and
going back to it,
I think Miguel has a point, and it just comes into something that I want to say. That I read a really funny. It's not about this, but it ties into the subject matter. I read a really funny letter in the newspaper the other day, which is all these middle-aged female, movie critics who are swooning over Poldark right now and saying, "Oh, he's such a dish. Oh, the sex scenes were fantastic, and he's wonderful." And I do like Poldark, by the way, people. Sorry.
I find it tedious. I don't get it. It's so tedious. You mean the TV show?
Yeah.
Tedious.
By the way, I went back and watched all the original ones on YouTube from back in the 70s, and they are better, I will say that. But no, my point I want to make, which was I thought was kind of funny, and it comes back to kind of what the angle Miguel was putting on this, which is not entirely the same, but all these, and they said, well, these are, and I hate saying it like that because I don't want to sound like some sweeping statement, but, these middle-aged women who are, film critics and movie critics and TV critics and stuff, and they're all swooning over and going, how brilliant Aiden, what's his name is, and so pretty is in this movie. Well, the next time you see a middle-aged man look at page 3 or look at, Kelly Brook in Loaded magazine and go, she's pretty, don't call him a lech, because it's exactly the same thing.
Well, you have to take into account that it happens a lot. Females are the sex symbol a lot more than men are. It's becoming, as long as it's even, I don't give a shit. As long as it's even, fair enough. everyone gets.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. That's
eye
the
candy
point.
for everyone. That's fine, but women, you know, it is much more common for the women to be.
Yeah,
no,
but
I know
that's
sexualized.
But hold on. That's usually in products directed specifically to men. When it comes to the mainstream, it's pretty even. It's pretty even when you're trying to reach a broad scale of.
I would say even the Hollywood films, it's still more the females. They'll be cast on looks more than ability. I think. I really do think that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
When you were a kid, what was the thing that you looked up to the most? Were you a Ghostbusters fan? Were you a?
I didn't look up to anybody. Like I didn't really idolize anybody because they were just people. You know, it's just.
So when you saw the Ghostbusters movie, you never wanted to put on a proton pack and zip up basically one of the Ghostbusters uniforms and drive an Ecto-1.
I'll be honest, I didn't grow up watching Ghostbusters. It wasn't until I got to college that I became obsessed with the movie. Because by the time I was born, I believe, no, Ghostbusters 1 would have been out by now. Yeah, I didn't grow up a fan of Ghostbusters. Like I said, I got into it out of high school and into college is when I really became obsessed with the movies and really started to do that. Growing up, let me think. I watched a lot of. I mean, I guess. Go on, because I can't really think of anybody that I idolized.
Because I think she sums it up better than I probably can. Part of the issue is when you are a kid, you want to be an adult. You don't know what you'll be or what you'll be like. You want to be like the characters you love, and she agrees with me and Annina on this. Now, she basically says, not sure why it's so difficult for everyone else to understand here. She also says that you're a robot. That explains everything. But the whole thing about this, and this is the thing. I remember once I was going to just a small little tangent, little story that I can tell you about. I remember once going to my daughter's school, and a teacher goes to me. She always wants to get involved with the conversations of what the teachers are saying, but she doesn't like playing around with the other kids because she thinks they're kids. Do you get what I mean? It's like with these kids.
Yeah, I was like that as a kid as well. Yeah, I didn't have time for other kids. It was more.
They want to be basically. They want to be adults, and when they see something like Cinderella, and this is the thing, my daughters grew up on the Disney cartoons. Their mum spoils them with the Disney cartoons. They grew up on Dora the Explorer as well. I love Dora. I think Dora is a great role model for them because she's a little girl who goes out exploring. Now, but the thing about it is, and also Spanish, and the thing about it is when you see something like this happen, when you see these little movies. One of the reasons I don't allow them to watch Keeping Up the Kardashians because I think it's mind-numbing, and two,
because you're a fucking good parent.
Yeah, but what their mum does. But the thing about it is, the kids soak this stuff in like a sponge, and the moment someone or something says something to them, their expectations change. As I said, with my oldest daughter saying, "Daddy, so and so at school called me fat. Am I fat?" And I just looked at her and said, "No, sweetie, you're lovely. And you're a big girl. If anybody basically says anything like that again, just send them my way and I'll tell them what for." And it's because their parents, go around and basically tell them all these unreal expectations themselves, and it goes round and round. And the problem is,
no, I get what you're saying, and I kind of, I don't agree necessarily with the flack that it got because of the CG waste, but you have amended my opinions, which is I get what you're saying, which is there's too many people out there who stare upon this shit that's flooded in front of them and therefore decide that that's what we should look like.
Yeah, and it goes with the whole culture of beauty pageants and beautiful children and stuff. In the end, kids need to be kids, and the alarming thing about that is why. I don't mind the fact that they did it, but why did they have to do it? Why did they have to CGI waste? Why
because it was a style thing.
Well, why couldn't she wear?
I mean, are we really going to have this argument? Listen. I go ahead.
I did think though, this is the point. Even though I understand what you're saying, Burhan, and you're right, and I agree with it, and I have amended my views slightly, but I also just kind of the point that I was trying to make was. I don't know. I just thought it's a fairy tale. I didn't think outside the bone, which is obviously people would look at it and go, yeah, I can understand why people wouldn't necessarily unplug their brain from the fact that it's fantasy and say like, I want to look like her. But my brain, to some degree, just went, it's a fairy tale. She's not supposed to look real. But I get what you're saying, which is people won't necessarily approach it with that mindset.
I don't. I feel like you're bringing. Listen, I feel like there's a lot of baggage being brought to this argument. It's a fairy tale. Every character has a stylized look to it. Look at half the video games that you play. You basically play a lot of Nintendo games. Are we going to have to make Princess Peach and Daisy more realistic of a proportion? But I'm not going to argue about this because we're not going anywhere with it.
No, but this is a live action film. It's a live action film.
And it's
That's
not
what it is.
Because Princess Daisy and Princess Peach both have hips. You kind of, do you know what I mean? But I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, you can't change my mind. I can't change yours. But I can see something that to me is very dangerous when you're dedicating a movie to kids. If this was any other movie, if you were doing it to me or anybody else or Joe Schmo, I wouldn't give a toss because it's basically a movie is based on perception. But when you're marketing it to children who soak this stuff in and who want to be like these characters, you're doing something to them which in the end can cause damage. And I think maybe when you're in the same situation that, you know, when you're a parent yourself, maybe your mind may change, or when you're facing with the same situation, your mind may change. You know, as you said, you've got your own little sister there, so she may, if she comes to you and says, hey, you know, I feel fat because of watching Cinderella, maybe you'll see what I see, but that's
a huge extreme. But going back to what I said, I'm not going to change your mind, and you're not going to change mine. Agreed. So let's just move on to the actual story, some of the stories we brought up, because I want to talk about this because I just brought this up. Have you seen the photos of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor? They just recently, Entertainment Weekly just posted the first shots of
I just saw them
Eisenberg.
Today. I just saw them. Go on.
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, we've said it before for a long time here on the show. I still don't agree with the idea of Jesse Eisenberg being Lex Luthor, and these pictures really didn't prove me wrong. They don't change my mind. I mean, yeah, he's bald, and yeah, he's a little bit, skinny looking, to kind of show off some age, but he still looks like a kid, and that's my biggest problem.
He's just been rescued from the Matrix. He's just taken the fucking blue pill or something. Do you know what I mean?
And that's
what, looking at it right now.
and that's what bugs me is that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. There's a lag.
Let's do one at a time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's what bugs me about the choice of him as Lex Luthor, because in my mind, Lex Luthor needs to be on the maturity level of Batman, and I don't see that in Jesse Eisenberg. You really need an actor that's on the same age group in a sense as Batman, and when you've got Ben Affleck who's pulling off the grizzled Dark Knight Returns Batman that they're doing for this one, I just don't buy it. I feel like it's a kid going up against an adult, and that throws me off because Lex Luthor, second only to maybe the Joker, is the most powerful villain in the DC universe. He should have this bravado to.
What you should have said. Most powerful brain in the DC.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the most iconic. We'll say he's one of the most iconic. And to me, you need a person that really can stand up and have the chutzpah that Ben Affleck is going to bring to it. So that's why I really was upset they didn't go with Bryan Cranston, because he would have been perfect. That guy.
Are they going with the angle though? It makes me wonder or worried. Are they going with the angle that this is some super, super, super intelligent young person, and way before his time, and therefore he feels the need to challenge all these people? Whereas I agree with what Miguel said, which is no, Lex Luthor should be a matured man. He should be. He's comfortable and complacent because he's lived a life, and he was intelligent, but he's all his decisions have given this wealth of knowledge, and he's a brilliant person. He shouldn't be some young fucking idiot who just goes, hey, I woke up one day and I got brains.
Yeah, that's the big thing here. With Cranston, I think, as Miguel put it, I think because his star one was on the rise when they first started casting this. and two, the fact that Cranston, I think, would have put the intelligent Lex Luthor off a lot more. Like having a young Superman with an adult Luthor who would have been sitting there thinking, you know, why is this guy seen as the hero and I'm seen as the villain, in a sense. It would be a nice dynamic. You've got Jesse Eisenberg, who's like this little, he looks like a punk kid. You know, he looks like someone that you'd probably rob for his lunch money. He doesn't look like a Lex Luthor. It may change when we actually see him act with the part, because, you know, as anyone has ever said when we've seen something cast, is they either could go two ways. You could either look at it as, man, that acting's sublime and he changed my mind, or why the fuck did they cast that guy in the first place after you walk out the cinema scratching your head? It's dependent on what he does with the role, and so far we haven't seen it. In terms of changing my mind, no, this picture doesn't. It just looks like a bald Jesse Eisenberg. It doesn't really look like a bald Lex Luthor. He doesn't look intelligent with it. He just looks like he's thinning, you know, in his face. He looks like he's just basically like, and the top he's wearing, it looks like he's in a prison jumpsuit. To me, he doesn't look like the villain that he come out to be. Can he play Lex? If he plays it anywhere like The Social Network, maybe. Don't know. You know, maybe. But...
Annina, what'd you think about the picture? Because you saw it too. What'd you think about it when you first saw it?
If he has an intensity about him that does suit him. I did think he's young. He will look, unless they're really making up to look older, which from the picture, he doesn't look that much older than he, you know, why is he, late 20s? But he's such a good actor. I think he might be able to pull it off. I would have gone for someone more mature. Someone more mature with more of a... Jesse Eisenberg has presence, but I think an older actor would have a more steady presence, you know what I mean? It would be more unshakable. And that's how I would have cast Lex Luthor. Someone who is older, really secure in themselves, so they just have this sort of unbreakable, steely presence.
Yeah, to add on what
I would have gone with the bloke.
Which would have been nice to work against Batman.
Yeah. To add on what Annina says on there, he's supposed to be intellectually strong, whereas Superman is physically strong. So his intellect is supposed to match Superman's physicality. Sorry, go for it, Annina.
Yeah. It could have been. I mean, I wouldn't have cast anyone who looks too strong as Lex Luthor, but again, I'm thinking, based on the picture, no, I would have cast someone else. But then again, he's such a good actor, he might be able to pull it off. Because I'm still not keen on Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to watch the film, but I am not... he's going to have to pull something magical out of the bag for that, for me to work. And I hope he does. I hope he pulls out, like, all aces and is brilliant.
I just hope he does.
Unless it's just about Jesse Eisenberg.
And they don't fucking replace him with a really bad stunt. I said, I just hope he does a Daredevil, because he wasn't brilliant in it, even though we all know that I love that movie. He wasn't amazing in it, but at least he learned some martial arts. My biggest problem with the Batman movie will be if you have Affleck and all the gruff, up-close scenes and limited combat, then all of a sudden when it gets to action, it cuts into a really shaky cam moment with someone who's blatant martial art trained stunt double.
Well, considering we're dealing with Zack Snyder, I don't know. I really can't say that the odds are in your favor there, sir.
Shit.
But, yeah. But we've got another story to talk about, but I won't go into that until Burhan gets back, because he had to kind of step away to use the restroom. So let's talk about this bit of news that was recently announced. Fox has ordered a 6-season return for the X-Files. It was recently announced.
Holy, I didn't realize it was 6 seasons. I thought it was just going to be like a...
No, 6 episodes.
6
episodes.
Oh, I was just going to say, wow. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be... Yeah, they recently... Fox recently ordered a... I'll get to that in a second, but yeah. Fox recently announced that they have ordered a 6-episode continuation of its phenomenal, successful supernatural drama to shoot this summer and presumably air at some point next season. An official air date
I
remains to be decided.
In Vancouver.
Quoting Chris Carter, the series creator, I think of it as a 13-year commercial break, said X-Files creator Chris Carter, who will oversee the new episodes. The good news is the word has only gotten that much stronger. The good news is the world has only gotten that much stranger. A perfect time to tell these 6 stories. It remains to be seen that the last episode of the X-Files was aired in May of 2002, not counting the Lone Gunman, which kind of spun off of that, or the 2008 sequel to the 90s era movie, The X-Files, which was The X-Files I Want to Believe. I don't know, man. I don't know what place the X-Files has anymore in society. I mean, the 90s were...
I think he nailed it when he said the world's that much more stranger place. You got stuff like, the Hadron Collider, the fact that we've got space probes that have left our known universe and stuff.
It's stranger, but at the same time, the world is so much more open now. This idea of secret societies and underground government stuff. We're such a transparent generation. It might be still relevant, but I don't know. To me, I honestly don't see the relevance because we know so much about what's going on in the world. To try to do in the 90s the whole secret society spookiness to it, it seems out of place. It really does to me.
I think, especially when you look at all the current shitty little wars that coalition forces are stuck in, and the stuff that comes out years later, like with Bush and Tony Blair, and the fact that I still think the world has at least military-wise, has a very, very
But that's military. That's military, though. I'm talking about more the.
What I'm saying, but the whole alien conspiracy thing ties into that in the sense that it's. I just think it's relevant. I think the world still, we may be more open with communication and the internet and stuff like that, but I still think there's a lot, clandestine shit going on in the world that still makes this show relevant.
I think we've pretty much debunked a lot of that now with just the stretch of information at this point. I mean,
the only way it will work, which is, I think, the right way, although I personally would have done it as 3 movie-length episodes, is at least they're only going to do 6. So there's no way. I agree with you on this, Miguel. Which is there's no way they could stretch a season at this. But
yeah, maybe a little
6
anthology,
maybe a
like
stretch. 3 hour specials would have worked for me.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be something for Sweeps Week in the summer. When they run out of original stuff, I could see this really filling up that runtime. I don't know. I will give them credit. They are bringing back the original cast. Duchovny and Gillian Anderson have actually agreed to be a part of this, which I think is good because those last few seasons without them really didn't feel like the X-Files. When Mulder pretty much left the series and Gillian Anderson became a side character for most of the last 2 seasons of the series.
Was it
Reyes.
Yeah.
He was Doggett and Reyes. Robert Patrick was the detective Doggett. And he did a good job. I'm not saying that he did a bad job. It just wasn't X-Files. They really should have at that point ended the show and really made, if anything, spun it off into its own second spin-off series like they tried with The Lone Gunman. But it just did not feel like an X-Files show. Duchovny and Gillian Anderson were really the 2 driving forces behind there. And once they left, especially when David Duchovny left, it just didn't feel right. And I do, on the one hand, it is nice that they are coming back. I don't know, man. It's going to be weird. I don't know what stories they can tell with this new season, but, they did the same thing with 24 when they brought it back, and supposedly it was a big hit when they brought back 24 for an extra season recently.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, apparently they're gonna basically turn it into another season, but without Jack Bauer, which I'm not sure people will like that.
Can I just say something about that? I want to say something about 24.
Shoot.
I was shocked that they brought the show back, honestly, because I said how the X-Files really is a product of the 90s. If there's one show that was the pinnacle of Bush-era America, it was 24. I did not understand them bringing it back now, because it's not like they were bringing it back for nostalgia reasons, like in this case. For X-Files, I get it, because it's almost 15 years old. Well, 13, if we want to be specific. But
what screen and got dead presidents on it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's I'm surprised that they brought 24 back just as, we're bringing this back, for no reason, just to cash in on it. It worked, and, Kiefer Sutherland is that great of an actor. He can really pull anything off. But I was surprised, and it was a hit, and they're continuing it.
Are we talking the season that was set in London? Yeah, by the way.
The most recent one, the one that came out last year, was the most recent season. I haven't seen it. I've only Brad Jones of the Cinema Snob did a review of it, and he said it's another 24 season. If you like 24, you can watch this one. It really doesn't bring anything new to it. But
it doesn't have. It's not continuous. Like when he gets on a plane, you'll see him in the other country straight away. You won't. There will be time passing, but you won't. It won't be real time.
Well, let me throw it out to you guys, and I'll start with Burhan, and then we'll go Dave, and then Annina. They brought back David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, so they're going to be the heads of this. Do you think this is going to work? Do you think there's going to be a fan base, or do you think if it does get successful, it's going to be strictly on nostalgia?
I think mostly it's going to be on nostalgia because the problems are still there. The problems still surfaced previously. The two stars thought that their film careers were becoming huge, so they decided to leave the show. Well, Duchovny first because he was a known sex addict and drug addict. But Anderson mostly because she felt like her career was taking off. Both film careers flopped. I think the only thing they ever shined in were the X-Files movies, believe it or not. Anything outside of those, they kind of bombed in. And then he went back to TV doing Californication, which is that still going on? I don't know if that's still going on.
That ended, I think, a while ago.
So yeah,
that was a great show.
Gillian Anderson has a great career now. She has a great career. She's got a
Did you see her on Top Gear, by the way? I didn't realise when she spoke because I know she. Yeah, when she spoke on Top Gear, I'm just like, I know you were born in England, but you moved to America years ago. But like, look at your glorious flowing English accent.
Yeah, she
can do both accents. I've heard her do a podcast in a American accent, and then she says as soon as she comes to England, she switches back to British.
Well, she's turned into Madonna from the Guy Ritchie years.
The thing is, she kind of has... Over here, she had a kind of a straight-to-DVD career over here, because she did a couple of like English movies and stuff, most notably stuff with Danny Dyer. But her career hasn't really blossomed, to just the fact that she's been doing a lot more stuff.
Oh, it has. She did Streetcar Named Desire, which got her so much critical acclaim, and that was fantastic because I saw that. And she's doing The Fall. She's now really big. Sure, maybe she's not in films, but Streetcar Named Desire, oh my god, it was amazing. The critics loved her, everyone loved her, and it was a real commercial success as well.
Yeah, that's understandable, but I don't like if you're looking at film careers and television careers.
No, I'm saying it's not film, but she has a great career, and I don't think you can sweep that aside.
Yeah.
Plus, in TV, The Fall is big. I think she's doing another show as well. I can't remember the name of it, but The Fall is on its second season, and that is huge.
And can I be really shallow?
Sure.
She really purdy. Sorry.
She's aging well. I'll give her credit for somebody who's as old as she is. She very much looks the same as she did before. And I'm hearing an echo.
She gave a really good lap on the Top Gear.
Hello.
I'm just trying to see whose computer is making me echo.
Let's have a look.
Live, everybody.
Yeah, well, I'm cautiously optimistic about X-Files, probably because I'm having a bit of a nostalgia, glee out of the fact that doing X-Files again. I don't know if it will work. It might not, but I'm cautiously optimistic because there's going to be loads of people who will watch it for nostalgia. Will it reach a new audience? We don't know until they try. But yeah, I think they might be able to create something really interesting as long as the writing's good.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing. But like I said, I don't know about Chris Carter. He's the executive producer. we'll see if his writing really evolves. Because
from what I heard, I know he's producer, but executive producer. But is he actually writing it? Or?
I think he wrote the movie, and considering the movie really, a lot of people took flack to the movie for just feeling like an extended version of the series. Like I said, I don't think you could write the show like you did in the 90s. You're really going to have to evolve it to the style of shows nowadays. And I hope that they get writers that are reflective of that, because, you know, writing the X-Files now like you did back in 93, it could go hit or miss, you know?
Yeah, they have to upgrade the style of it while keeping it feeling like X-Files, which will be tricky, but I think they can pull it off. I hope so.
Well, the thing is, they've only got 6 episodes to prove their mettle, and then apparently it's got 2 season orders, so 2 seasons of 6 episodes. So basically, it makes it out like 1 season of 12. Or if
oh my god, that's English seasons length. That's unheard of for the States.
They do that. They kind of have started doing that in the States for some shows. So I'm not really worried about it. The way that I see it is it's a good thing that they're going to try it. But I agree. I think it's kind of too little too late. It's been done. I'm not expecting anything amazing out of this. And especially the fact it's going to be on Fox as well, which, you know, Fox, no offense to Fox, but most shows being on Fox is like a death sentence. So, you know, because they as soon as a show drops from 5 point to like a 4.0, they'll just can it anyway, or they'll just put it on a bad spot and can it. So I'm not very comfortable with the network. I'm not comfortable with the fact that we're going to see a new X-Files, because it could go either about 2 ways. They could see it independently from the other seasons, should I say, or series. Sorry. Or we could end up seeing a show that's basically just a rehash that could spoil the entire legacy of the the previous seasons, and that's my issue. And I've had this with as many shows that I've been on, that I've seen, like with films, that they tend to do reboots of films or continuation of films, like, you know, the Highlander movies. It's you've got to play this right. You've got to do right by your fans and do right by, if you want to bring new fans in, you've got to make it current, like Miguel said. If you want to, but you don't want to do it too much that you end up alienating the fans that love the series in the first place. So you've got to do a bit of both. Can they pull it off? Yes. Will they pull it off? Who knows? We've got to wait and see.
Yeah, and going back to what something Burhan said that I will disagree on, I don't think they're going to trash this movie like they do with other ones, because X-Files was one of the big cornerstones for Fox. There's a lot of goodwill towards X-Files. So even if this show does flop in the ratings, it's not like they're going to cut it after 3 episodes. They're going to give it its 6 run episodes, just because of how much it really was a cornerstone to there. I mean, I grew up during that time, so between X-Files, 90210, The Simpsons, Married with Children, shows like that really started the show. This is in I'd say in the top 3. It's one of those beloved by Fox shows. So I'm not worried that it's gonna. I'm worried that it's probably gonna. It could do bad in the ratings, but I don't think Fox is going to blame that. I think it's gonna be a thing that just happens. But let's move on to the next.
I think it's a
it's a test. It's a test, is what it is.
My thoughts on it, which is, I agree with what everyone else said, which is, I'm happy to see it. I really am. Kind of, even though I argued against it, do see to some degree how you say it's irrelevant now, Miguel, but at the same time, I want to see it, but I think it's not about attracting. I almost feel like it's a swan song, or a tribute, or a love letter. That it's not about attracting new fans. It's basically this show is probably from some shrewd bloke in a suit at Fox, just going, this, especially with nostalgia and retro and every other form of media, that some bloke just went, why don't we bring this back? There's a lot of love. There's a lot of anoraks out there. Sorry, X-Files people. X-Files? What are they called?
I disagree. I think
it's going to be sold entirely upon and played, and this is why they're making it on the love and the nostalgia and the original audience base of the original shows.
One word, which is one term, geek is chic. That's why they're doing it, because it's in now.
True. Very true.
We'll see how it goes. But moving on to another big bit of news, and some of you guys didn't even know about this, but I recently broke the news here. I think Dave probably wasn't the one that was aware.
Yeah,
it was recently announced. Yeah, not Clerks. Mallrats 2 has been announced. Kevin Smith, about 2 weeks ago, actually made the announcement on his Twitter, quoting Kevin Smith on Twitter. We shoot Clerks 3 in May, Hit Somebody, which is his next movie, shoot September to Christmas. Then in February 2016, we do Moose Jaws, but after that, I Smell a Rat, unquote. So he pretty much announced it. Mallrats 2 is going to be coming out. Now, here's another bit of news that came out recently, if I could pull up the tab. There's already been 5 confirmed people that will be returning to the series. Kevin Smith, obviously, will be returning. Jason Mewes has already said that he's returning as well. This is actually going to be Mewes' it's going to be his first time coming back to the series since 2006's Clerks 2, so it's going to be interesting to see how that looks, because he hasn't really
the whole
done
deal
much
with him is every time they did a new movie in the Viewer Skew series, it was basically to get him off drugs.
I don't think so. I mean, at this point, and I'll get to that in a second on why I'm not too keen on this. Jason Mewes obviously is coming back. Michael Rooker has been announced. He's going to be returning back to it. He played the angry dad in Mallrats. He recently came out last Friday and said that he's going to be coming back as well. Stan Lee actually has said that he'll be appearing in there. He'll have a little bit more of a role this time than he did in the first movie. He played a bit of a cameo. And this is the one that's actually big. And this is actually the big one that they recently announced. Kevin Smith actually confirmed it on Twitter very recently, a couple days ago. Shannon Doherty is going to be returning to the movie.
Really?
Yeah, they've confirmed it. She's actually going to be in the movie. She played one of the main female girlfriends in the actual first movie.
Yeah. I guess they finally tracked down her escaping eye then. Sorry, put it wrong.
No, I saw her in 90210. She just looks just say the amount of time between that and Charmed. It's just like yeah.
I haven't seen her in anything for years. Absolutely years.
Yeah. But interesting to point out, 2 that actually have not been confirmed are Jason Lee and Jeremy London, the 2 main stars of Mallrats. I don't know if that means we're not going to see them.
To be honest.
What was that?
I can't see Jason Lee doing it. He's above and beyond this right now. I'm not saying this is a small fry movie, but I'd be very surprised.
I mean, really, are we saying that the Chipmunk series is above Mallrats 2 at this point? I mean, look, I love Jason Lee, but
he just I don't know, because he does have credible roles and movies to his name, and I'm not saying this isn't, but I don't know. I got an itching. I'd be very surprised if he returns to the fold, unless he does it out of pure sense of loyalty and nostalgia, which he should. But
I'd be more surprised if we didn't see Jeremy London come back, because he really hasn't been doing much but mostly direct-to-video stuff. I mean, it'll either be a case where Smith might not get him, or he may actually believe that. I don't know. I for some reason I think Lee has worked so much with Kevin Smith and appeared in so many of his movies. Unless there was a big falling out, it would surprise me if we didn't see Jason Lee in there. I mean, it might be something that maybe he's busy at the time, so they haven't really announced anything. But if I had to pick the 2, which one I see less likely coming back, it'll probably be Jeremy London, because I see too much. There's too much of a collusion between Jason Lee and Kevin Smith when you look back at their past. Unless something really bad happens, I would be shocked. But in terms of Mallrats itself, why? Why are we getting a sequel to Mallrats 2? Mallrats 1 was... Yeah, Mallrats 1 was a very self-contained story. I mean, yeah, it had Silent Bob and Jay in it, and yeah, Brody was in it, who would appear in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but it very much was a one-shot
Sorry, I had to say the line. Fucking Jedi and shit. Sorry.
It was a one-shot thing that really doesn't have much of a there wasn't much to it even within the View Askew universe. It's a very forgotten movie. I mean, when you consider stuff like Chasing Amy and Dogma, more people remember that than they do Mallrats. I mean, I liked Mallrats, but this movie gets a sequel? I'm surprised, and I wonder if it's going back to the whole Kevin Smith thing of he's making these movies because his non-View Askew movies don't make that much money. I mean, Tusk really didn't make as much money as people were hoping. Red State didn't make as much as a lot of people were hoping. It might be a situation where he's just going back to the well, and it's a surprising one he's going back to the well for, but I'll throw it over to you guys, and we'll start with Burhan first. What's your thoughts on Mallrats 2, what we know so far?
I'm not looking forward to it. I think Kevin Smith is going into the well a bit too much. I'm surprised he was even doing a Clerks 3, to tell you the truth, because it's...
I was too. I didn't know that until Miguel said.
Yeah, it's like he's going back to all his old famous properties, not because he wants to do them, because he wants to try and pay fan service in a sense and expand his view of his Skewverse. The amount of times I've heard him say that he's going to retire, that he's going to stop directing and just write stuff, to me it's like I would rather see something new from Kevin Smith than something rehashed or old. Can he pull it off? He may be able to, but the fact that he hasn't got the two established leads in Mallrats, it's like watching an American Pie spin-off. So we don't know yet.
Cop out. Mm-hmm.
Will basically bounce those ideas off of you. Do you know what I mean? Well, having that kind of studio filter helps. So if he goes back to these, he's got to look at, am I doing Mallrats 2 and are the fans going to be happy with that, who are going to compare it to Mallrats 1? And if I'm going to do, like, you know, Clerks 3, will they be happy with that in comparison to Clerks 1? And I guarantee you fans aren't going to be happy with either. And, you know, that he really needs to let people know, release little plot points about the stories, what he's going to do with these characters, what direction he's going to take them in, before he starts like saying, oh, we're going to have this happen, and we've got Shannon Doherty going to be in it, blah blah blah. It's just like, okay, so what are you going to do now? How are you going to make this work? So, but again, it's a wait and see type situation, because I know Smith can put out gold, but he also can put out shit.
Throw it over to you, Dave. What do you think?
I'm very, 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 very... Well, you know that before we went live, when we mentioned it in the news you were going to talk about, I think my response gave it away, which is I'm absolutely stunned and flabbergasted. There's a word that doesn't get used enough. Why this movie? I agree with a lot of what Burhan said, which is why this movie? It's... You know, I mean, also, why Clerks 3? But, you know, because the original Clerks, this is a different thread, but the original Clerks was a brilliant, wonderful, independent movie. To make studio-produced sequels to that is kind of contradicting what made that movie great. But this movie, really? I mean, I love the original, I do. It's one of my favourite movies. I actually controversially prefer this to Chasing Amy. I think it's brilliant. Mainly because it taught me that you should wipe your ass with a pretzel and give it to someone you don't like. But I'm very surprised. Part of me wants to go, oh, brilliant, brilliant. If they get all the original cast back, amazing, amazing. But the adult side of my brain just goes, why? I don't get it. really, unless it comes back to what Burhan says and what you mentioned on as well, but Miguel, which is his outside products or projects aren't doing so well, so dip into the well and keep your stock high, if that makes sense. But see, the thing is, I'm contradicting myself. I probably will watch it, but I honestly, and I know there's a loyal, which, well, technically I am one of the, Viewer Skew universe, but I know there's a lot of loyal fans, but I really, really can't see a place for this movie or a market for this movie. I can, even though I disagree with it, Clerks 3, just because of the nature of, what's entailed within the franchise and the characters and stuff. But Mallrats, like I said, I love the original movie, but a sequel to, it's almost like Seinfeld, a sequel to a movie about nothing, I really can't see that that's something we need, if that makes sense. That was really garbled. Hopefully you got what I was saying.
Total agreement, Dave. Totally agreement with that.
I do too. Annina, what do you think about Clerks 2? Not Clerks 2, Mallrats 2.
Mallrats. Oh, I really, really like the first Mallrats, but I think the momentum has passed. Like with X-Files coming out, there is excitement for it. There is a fan base that will watch it. But with Mallrats, I feel like, is there really? I haven't heard people talking about Mallrats for a very, very long time. Not since, when did it come out? I can't even remember. But there doesn't seem to be 96. So that's a good 20 years. Is there going to be a fan base to watch it? I would probably watch it out of curiosity.
It's a science project.
I don't think I'm not excited. I'm kind of indifferent. Indifferent is my basic reaction to this. Oh, okay, he's making another one. But again, it seems like a very long time after the first one. And when did Tusk come out? I was looking forward to seeing Tusk. Did it even make it to the UK? Because I did not see it being shown anywhere.
It's an arrogant Kevin Smith type thing. What he tends to do is he's releasing films like Bloody Water at the moment, and they're not making big in the box office, so he's
got an infection.
Yeah, they end up either
going
straight to DVD.
I wanted to see Tusk. I really wanted to see it. I was like, "Ooh, that sounds really weird and messed up. I want to see it. I'm curious."
I think it's more of a Redbox exclusive, so we'll probably end up getting it on Netflix.
Oh, here's an interesting idea outside of the box, by the way, which is why Mallrats is not relevant anymore. Which just, I mean, I don't know about the States, Miguel, but do people go and hang out at the mall anymore? Because think about it, since that movie, we have the prevalence of online shopping, Amazon, eBay, and all this stuff. Do kids just go and hang out at a mall anymore, or do you basically, even though they wouldn't,
they're going to play around with that? I'm pretty sure
that
Kevin
Smith
that
would be the one angle they
play
could
around with that idea. Yeah, and to be fair, I was going to say this earlier. There wasn't even much of an audience when this movie first came out, because I'm looking at the budget, $6 million budget, and only made $2 million. So you're talking about the movie.
Was it a loss?
This was. What was that?
Was it? It ran. I didn't know it ran at a loss.
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah, it
bombed.
actually ran. Yeah, it was a huge bomb. I mean, that's kind of why Chasing Amy was such a big hit for Kevin Smith, because it was actually one of his first post-Clerks movies to make money back. It broke even, I believe.
The studios, basically.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, I think if he keeps the budget low enough, this might be a big enough hit. But honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it was Kevin Smith, this would be a direct-to-video release.
Yeah.
It's gonna get a theatrical release, and I think Smith is gonna be smart enough to keep the budget low, because he probably knows that it's not gonna be a huge bombastic hit. But at the same time, if he plays it right and he releases it the right way, it could make something. I don't really feel the need to see it at this point, because, like I said,
I'm not gonna watch it. And I love the original.
And Clerks 2 was such a great ending to that whole universe. It was basically the storybook closing that the fact that they are making a Clerks 3 and a Mallrats 2 honestly is an insult to me. I'm insulted because it really felt to me like the series was done. I felt closure. And then for Smith to come back to it because, quite frankly, he's not making any money with his other movies, it feels hollow. And that's just my opinion.
I'm in agreement with you, mate. I agree wholeheartedly. It's
totally.
He's doing his own thing. He felt that he could do what he wanted without the studio, but the problem is, it's when the guy was so intuitive and so with it in terms of his times has kind of lost touch with his own kind of production technique in terms of what he wants to do. And the problem, because he's been so hands-on, people are tending to get fed up with what he's doing. It's like, I remember once he did an interview and said, Judd Apatow is doing what I'm doing, but it's doing it better than me. And it's because Judd Apatow kind of has different people around him who kind of understands certain elements and people who are relevant, and I think that's where the problem lies. And I think Smith, in my opinion, it would be best for him just to go away and take a break, be a dad, do his own thing, and then come back when he's got another Red State on his hands, like when he's got another idea.
Here's a thought though, based on what you're saying, which is this almost, and just my thoughts, which is this almost a redress the ego thing, which is every time he has a failure, or something that he put his heart and soul into, and I'm not saying they're bad movies because I thought that movie was great, but they don't get the box office that he wants, it's kind of a quick dip into the well of my previous youth to restore my faith in myself, if that makes sense.
Probably. I mean, it's, you go with what works, and, he's going with what works, and, filmmaking is such a nebulous thing to where, we could sit here and go, oh, these people shouldn't be making these movies, but, I mean, for a guy like Smith, if he tried to do more artsy, more personal films like that, and they didn't make any money, and now he's, low on cash, he needs to, provide for his family, yeah, you got to go back to the well, and you got to kind of,
we know is the audience think is kind of cheap and selling out, but from a perspective on life point of view, man's got to eat. I can kind of understand that.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a filmmaker. I mean, yeah, I know he's also written comic books, but he's a filmmaker at his core. It's the only way to do it. I could sit here and be insulted by the idea that they're making a Clerks 3 and a Mallrats 2, but at the same time, part of me kind of gets it. It's like you tried to make movies like Tusk and Red State that were, a little more, not so much mainstream, but had a little bit more ambition to them, and the people didn't buy into it. You thought there'd be a crossover with your fans.
What did Red State do? Because I know didn't Red State make the money back? Because I remember it got a lot of critical praise and acclaim. And a lot of the guys that was in Red State, because I remember he told the story about Ben Affleck stealing literally the entire cast of Red State to do the movie with him.
Oof. $4 million budget, made $1.8 million. It bombed.
Well, I think a lot of that also was distribution, because he never had a global channel. He didn't have the kind of huge.
He didn't have the Weinsteins, because the Weinsteins, after Cop Out, I think they decided not to distribute this movie because they had distributed all the other VSQ movies, but after the issues with Cop Out, they were like, we're not going to touch this one. And so he had to kind of, I think, self-distribute, if I'm not mistaken, or he signed on with. He basically put the movie out there on the independent film scene, like Sundance, things like that. I guess you can say that, but at the same time, I mean, he's got a homegrown fan base himself. I mean, even if every single member of his fan base bought the movie, I mean, it's hard to say, Like I said, I can't hate the man for doing it. I hate the idea of it, but it is what it is. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I was just gonna say, didn't mean to cut you off, but he's such a prolific podcaster.
I thought you said pedophilic.
Oh, your brain, honestly, Dave. Naughty.
Sorry, anyway. But I'm third strike.
Yeah, that's enough now. Thank you.
Right.
His fan base, this might be what they're telling him they really want. So in a way, like I said, I'm with Miguel on this. You can't blame the man for trying. Can't blame the man for keeping on doing what he loves. It might not be the biggest box office success, but you just have to do what you want to do in life, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, and enjoy the process of filmmaking. I'm sure he still enjoys it, and
Dr.
he's actually
Horrible
quite.
sing along. Man's got to do what a man's got to do.
The problem is, though, he's
Exactly.
not a Spielberg. He's not a guy who can produce and direct and write. He's a guy who's a writer-director, and that's, I think, where the problem lies. And as Miguel just pointed out so aptly, he doesn't have the Weinsteins behind him. He doesn't have someone who can steer his movies in a certain direction and know where to cater them to so they get the proper promotion. Smith has an indie kind of cred to him anyway, but he's not an independent director. That's where the problem lies.
I still think it's good that he still makes his films, despite them not being massive block office hits. I think it's still a good thing.
I mean, if it was something to where he was basically, if it was a situation where he was like an Orson Welles, where the studios really wanted to work with him and he was just telling them to screw off, fine. But, I mean, the man tried to make real movies and they didn't work. I'm not saying... I can't begrudge him for that. It's Smith, to me, does not come off as a kind of like that, like a George Lucas or anything like that. I mean, maybe as a filmmaker, he's starting to become out of touch, but if anything, it's only just now starting. I give him a little bit more credit than that. And in terms of the Apatow thing, the only reason Apatow got over as much as he did is because he was the new thing. Smith's biggest problem, in my opinion, is he's very much a product of the 90s. He very much is a 90s guy. Clerks is considered one of the more 90s movies out there. So when Apatow came along and was doing the same thing he was doing, but with a fresher cast, with a new set of guys, while Smith was still working with Muse and Ben Affleck to an extent and Jason Lee, Apatow was going to leapfrog him. So you can't really use that analogy because it's just a matter of...
That's not the analogy
this was
that
old.
I used. That's the analogy that he used, and he tried the Apatow approach. Zack and Mimi made a porno. The thing is, he's good at what he does, and I'm not saying that he's bad, and I'm not trying to downplay him or call him any names. But the thing about it is, I think in terms of direction, he needs a fresh approach. He needs someone in there to sit there and go, actually, maybe you should steer your movie into this direction. Films, some of the Smith films I loved were so far out of the box. For instance, go ahead. Sorry, Miguel?
I was going to say, the last time he listened to the studio to steer his movie, we got Cop Out.
No, of course. But he directed Cop Out, and that was terrible. But
that was a studio film.
Yeah, but it wasn't a Kevin Smith film. And... Well, I'm trying to think what one that I love the most. Had Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. They played angels.
Dogma.
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 Yeah,
Dogma's
films
the
like
best.
Dogma, for instance, you could see it had a lovely unison of studio production and Kevin Smith's feel, and also an amazing cast who set the tone right. Even Alanis Morissette had her part and did it well. In the end.
Yeah, she said nothing. That's the greatest thing she's ever done.
Pretty much. And in the end, he knows what he's doing, but I think in both sides, the one reason why he stopped doing the studio thing was out of arrogance. Like Red State, when he was auctioning it to studios, he did such an arrogant thing where he went in front of the studio execs, pitched the movie, and then cut off the auction at $1, which he bought the movie himself. And it was just and then went on to this whole speech of him not pandering to the machine. And you sit there and think, okay...
Well, like I said, though, this was just coming after Cop Out, and you read the stories about what he had to go through for that. I can imagine why he would basically say, bump the system, I'm just going to do what I want because I tried to work in the system, and it was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. He tried it, and it didn't work. You know, it's like, do you want him to be more of a studio hired gun now? I mean, I actually respect the guy for the fact that he isn't a studio hired gun. That he does do what he does. I hate that he has to milk his own franchises to make money, but you know, there is a respect there, and I do respect the man for that.
No, that's the thing. I respect him too, but I think there's a different direction you can go. There's, like, if you look at someone like, for instance, like Adam Sandler, who's now only having every one of his movies bomb, he's moving on to the Netflix route. You could go that route. There are other channels you can go to. You don't have to release this thing in cinemas and then having these films bomb dramatically. There are ways you can make these films shine without having to use a studio model. But the thing I find that he's losing touch with is he doesn't have someone with him that can help him in that side of things. He's a director first, he's a writer second. That's what Kevin Smith is. And in terms of the way that he produces his movies, the reason why you're getting movies that are cinema gold like Red State that are not making enough money is because of the fact that he doesn't have someone to help guide him. He doesn't have those Weinsteins to do that. And, you know, no matter what happens, no matter what direction he's gone in, he needs to kind of, and I don't mean bite the bullet and go back to the studios, he just needs someone to steer him in that direction and allow these movies to go, and then hopefully he'll get what he needs out of them. I just hope that this doesn't continue into a trend where we get a Dogma 2. Do you know what I mean?
Oh God, I will fucking openly walk away from him for the rest of my life if he fucking dares to tread on that.
There's also having a great legacy, but there's another thing when you're tarnishing it by making all these crappy rehashes, which I'm not impressed by, you know, a Clerks 3, because I think Clerks 2 was enough. Or going for like, even Clerks 2 I felt was a bit too far. Or even like Mallrats 2, when the story really ended with the first movie. You know, there's the fact that he's doing these rehashes shows that he's kind of desperate to kind of win his fan base over, when he should be, like any filmmaker, sit there and think, you know what, I want to make something fresh and new like I did with this movie. So it allows him to continue showing that he's an innovative director instead of a director that just wants to live in the past.
Well, we can all be so lucky to find a producer that is willing to work with us. I mean, heck, if we could find a guy that had an in Hollywood that could work with half the projects we want to put in, we'd be on easy street. So I'm not going to hold it against. I'm not going to hold it against Smith too much.
Stop animation, Aardman animation version of the Moomins, if that was true.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Moomins. That's the reaction you get when you
think about it.
Moomins.
Moomins by Aardman. How good would that be?
I'm just gonna laugh. I'm just gonna laugh. Go ahead.
As long as they're still Scandinavian. I don't want them to become too un-Scandinavian.
We'll get
you know what I mean?
Because they had it'll be dubbed by them.
Yeah. If that's not, if it still has the Moomin feel, then I'm all up for it.
The subtle, constant fear of death by the hands of winter.
You don't understand my culture.
No, I do. I do understand the Moomins. As a child, the Moomins scared me because I loved it every day on ITV, kids TV. But even as a kid, I understood the Moomins had ever such dark overtones that you didn't get until you were an adult.
It wasn't winter that they were scared of. They were just aware that
Jack
there was
Frost.
things that you had to be afraid of the world. Actually, the Jack Frost character, i.e. the Groke, wasn't an evil character. Jack Frost
scares the piss out of me even now.
He is scary, but he's actually not a villainous character, which I like about it.
No, it's his job.
Unless you see the Jack Frost 2 movie that came out.
What? They made a fucking... Are you shitting
me? No. There was some horror company who had a movie with the same name. Decided to... I was like, as a kid, Jack Frost 2, this is great. And then we put it in the tape player and was like, oh my god! I had nightmares.
Them for life now.
Yeah.
Now, are we talking about the sequel to the 1998 Michael Keaton film?
No, it was actually a sequel to the horror film, but cleverly titled the same name.
I know. I just wanted to name drop Michael Keaton because
I know, because Michael Keaton makes everything amazing. That's what comes with
my breakfast cereal was not good. I think of Michael Keaton and it improves it.
He could do a voice in movements.
Yeah.
I think he'd make a good movement.
He can do a voice in the next project we're going to be talking about, and it's probably the biggest news we've got. So we're gonna probably talk about. Sony recently announced that they are making yet another Ghostbusters film. Unlike the Paul Feig directed female Ghostbusters-led film, which is going to be starting a production in June, this one is actually headed up by Ghost Corps, which is a subsidiary within Sony, which is going to be headed by Ivan Reitman.
Sony, yeah. Sorry.
It's going to be within Sony, but this time it's going to be done by a subsidiary within Sony that's going to be headed by Ivan Reitman, who directed the first and second film, and Dan Aykroyd, which I just want to point out, folks, I did not get a chance to see him. I woke up late that Saturday, and I couldn't make it to go see Dan Aykroyd because he was signing autographs for his Crystal Skull vodka at a Walgreens in town, and I was going to go there, and I overslept, and I never got a chance to see him. So
it's understandable.
Please tell me
totally
he didn't do what the Red Dwarf guys did at Play. Please tell me he doesn't charge people for his autograph.
I would be you know what? I would be surprised if he didn't. Man's got to make money. So if he charges for autographs, fair enough. It would have been nice if I'd have been there to have him do like some type of intro for the show, although he probably would have charged an arm and a leg, but whatever. I mean, honestly, I'm still reeling over the fact that I saw, to go off on a tangent here a bit, I was looking at listings for like autographs and stuff like that for the most recent convention coming up, MegaCon, and some of them are pretty nice. Some of them are like $20, $30 here and there for the lower class guys. Hulk Hogan's charging $150 for an autograph.
Are you fucking shitting me?
What? Wow.
Does it include him ripping his shirt off and showing you his man saggy boobs?
Fucking expect it for that much money.
Yeah, he should come with a bloody lap dance for that amount.
You should let me bang his daughter. The fit one.
I think he's also doing like a spoken word meet and greet kind of thing, independent of MegaCon at there. I think I saw like a poster for it. I gotta pull this up.
Let me tell you people how to make money. What you do is you get famous, and then you sell your autograph, and then you have a meeting.
You know something, brother? If you spend $150, brother, I will shake your hand, brother. Pull my 11-inch pythons out, brother. And
I would pay the $150 though. Do you want to know why? Just so I can ask him what the deal is with his hair.
All right, hold on. I may have jumped the gun a little bit. These are the prices that he says that he's got posted on the MegaCon website.
He's got a scale?
Photo op. Yeah, photo op price $70 for a photo op, $75 for an autograph.
Wow.
And $100 for him to autograph a belt. So if you bring a belt to him, a non-personalized belt, he'll sign it. Usually it's like title belts. If somebody brings him a title belt.
What I've got his autograph picture taken with him, and then you want him to sign the picture afterwards.
I've got an NWO Hogan autographed framed photo that I purchased for $20 when I was in Florida.
Yeah, he would basically if you wanted to get an autograph of him signed, it would basically cost you $150 almost.
Fuck me sideways and call me Susan. That's disgraceful, Hogan. Sort your shit out.
Yeah, let me pull up one of the lesser known actors because there were a couple that were really nice that I actually looked up.
That sounds like you'd charge extra to smile in it. Do you know what I mean? For an extra.
By the way,
$10,
you have to stick $5 in the slot in front of him, otherwise he calls you a twat.
Yeah, the average pricing for autographs and photo ops for some of these is usually around $40 or $50. Like I looked up Carrie Elways' prices: $40 for an autograph, $50 for a photo op. Same thing for Alan Tudyk. I would have to check the rest of them, but I mean that's pretty solid. But it doesn't surprise me that Hogan is charging an arm and a leg for his, because that's just the kind of guy Hogan is. But thankfully
he makes money, brother.
This is what annoys me about Hogan, which is your powers are weak, Padawan. They're waning. So why are you still pulling these fucking ridiculous prices out of your toque?
Because Hogan knows best.
Yeah, the only guy that I can see getting away with charging that price is Stan Lee. Stan Lee, it's $75 for an autograph, $85 for a photo op. I can
have a picture of me with my arm around Stan Lee that he signs later on and just says, "Dear Lone Boy, Spider-Man is the boss." Job done.
So, going on to the Ghost Corps thing, I'm glad Sony...
Hold on, I've got one last thing I want to say about pricing, and then I'm going to continue with that story. Alex Kingston is going to be there of Doctor Who fame. $55 for an autograph, $60 for a photo op. I just want to point that out.
There you go.
But yeah, going back to the Ghostbusters thing, they're actually planning on doing a male spin-off out of the Ghost Corpse line, and these are the people they have signed on. Directors are going to be Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers, who did Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So far, they're signed on to direct.
Oh yeah, they've got a holding deal with Sony, haven't they?
Yeah, they do. They've got Drew Pearce to write, who wrote Iron Man 3 and the upcoming Mission Impossible 5. So that's some pretty good muscle. And Channing Tatum is actually working with Ghost Corp. He's going to be producing, but there's also a chance that he might also star in it. So you've got the directors of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the writer of Mission Impossible 5 and Iron Man 3, and starring Channing Tatum. That's a pretty good line.
Very solid.
I don't understand why they have to make basically the same reboot twice at the same time. To me, it sounds like, oh well, it's just since someone had the crazy idea of making a female-led one, let's just make a male-led one just in case. Sounds like I hope I'm wrong, but to me, I get a feeling of let's make a male one because that's what people actually want. Ugh. I don't know. Same film twice at the same time.
The thing is, I think I get what Miguel's saying on this as well. It's not that at all. It's the fact is Dan Aykroyd and Ivan Reitman actually own the rights to Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So with or without it, you've got to make it in terms of what these guys want. Because basically, they could easily just sit there and go, well, we're not going to sign off on this. So giving them this division and Sony is a smart move. And it's also a very smart move if the female version kicks off, or because if the people who like the female version, or you have the naysayers who don't like it, they're going to get to see an all-male version. My issue would be about the whole situation here is, where the fuck is Dan Aykroyd going to be? Is he going to be starring in any of these Ghostbusters spin-offs?
You better have a fucking cameo, or I'm not fucking sold.
I agree, and I think there's got to be
he needs to be in it. I think he will be in it. It'd be silly not to have him in it.
And as long as they tie these movies together, I've got no issue. If they're going to make a universe, make a proper universe. And I see what Sony's doing here. They're trying to do kind of a Marvel and spin Ghostbusters off into its own universe of movies. I ain't got nothing against this. I think it would be a great idea as long as they tie them together.
While it's the same studio, are we looking at kind of the incidents of a few years ago? Well, not entirely the same because it was different studios who held the rights for one particular reason. But are we looking at the same year that we got two 007 movies? One was Never Say Never Again, the other one was Octopussy.
We're looking at a Ghostiverse. We're looking at a Marvel franchise in Ghostbusters proportions.
The only thing I would like to add to this argument, which I would think is whether maybe Aykroyd and Reitman aren't happy with where the all-female cast Ghostbusters is going, so they were like, no, this is our baby, we're going to do our thing. Also, and this is just purely hearsay from me, but which is, there was a lot of backlash, and we've talked about this before, haven't we, Miguel, on previous shows, which is that it wasn't about being chauvinistic or I'm brute male or anything like this and hating women. It wasn't that, but it was just like Ghostbusters is a franchise that's, if you're going to make an all-female cast Ghostbusters, then call it something else. So is this kind of, they've picked up on the fact that there was a lot of animosity amongst fans, genuine fans of the original, two movies, that they thought we could, I think it's a situation.
Sorry about that.
No, sorry, carry on. No, but my point was that there's something here. There's a lot of love for the original movie, and there's a lot of kind of dissatisfaction with the way this new franchise is going. With an all-female cast. I hate talking about stuff like this because it just makes me sound like a raving fucking chauvinistic prick.
It's Sony picking up from where the Spider-Man issue happened. Because now they've kind of made that deal with Marvel, they're sitting there probably thinking of, we want to make our own franchise. It's what they set on. I could see all the Sony execs in a boardroom sitting there going, okay, we need to make a Marvel-like franchise, what can we do it with? Because Universal, and this is the funniest thing, I remember attending press at an event, and this dude from Universal goes, I bet you've heard the big news. And I was like, no. Well, we're doing with Marvel are doing with the Avengers. We're doing with the monster movies. And I just looked at him, and he looked so impressed by that. I was like, okay. So what do you think of that? I went, so you're going to have the Wolfman and Dracula and the Mummy and Van Helsing.
Well,
they
were originally going to do that. They've been wanting to do that since the 90s. I mean, there was originally an idea to do that with the Mummy franchise. When that hit, they were going to do the same thing. They were going to have the characters from that. They were going to meet the Wolfman and the Frankenstein. They were going to.
Oh, sorry, Miguel. When you bring that up, that's one of my biggest fucking pet peeves about cinematic history ever, which was I love the original Mummy. I hate the two sequels. I loved the original Mummy. And after it was a success, like you said, they went, why don't we just use this as an excuse to take this character, and basically meet all the Universal monsters? Why didn't they run with that? It would have been fucking amazing.
Because I believe at the time, I forget what company was doing it, but they were already in development of a Van Helsing movie. In fact, I think they even got Steven Sommers, who did The Mummy, to direct it. It was the Hugh Jackman one that was already in development by the time they had that idea. So instead, they just decided to keep doing Mummy sequels.
I'm right. Wouldn't it have been amazing to see Rick fight? The guy from The Mummy, Brendan Fraser. Wouldn't it be amazing to see him fight all the? I know it's not going to happen, but wouldn't it be amazing to right, the Mummy's done. Now fight Dracula. That's done. Now fight the Wolfman. That's done. Now fight Frankenstein, and just work your way through all the classic Universal monsters.
That's basically the plan, and that's the plan that they've got going from 2014 to 2015, all the way to 2018. They're going to basically do this franchise thing. Now, going back onto Ghostbusters, I've got a funny feeling what they're going to do is do these separate movies, and then spin these movies off into one big movie, where all these Ghostbusters franchises come into one and collide for one big event. I haven't got an issue with this, and as I said, you need three things. You need your story, you need your plot device, and you also need these characters you need to have these characters acknowledge one another.
You can't collide universes or worlds without actually doing your homework. Exactly. Every fucking failed comic book crossover between DC and Marvel proves that point.
Exactly. So I hope they play around with this a bit more and work on the idea. I see promise in it, but it has to be done right. Otherwise, it's going to end up being another clusterfuck Amazing Spider-Man series, which we all know what happened with that.
Although, as we talked about in our retrospective before, which is I might be the only person in the world who accepts it has its flaws, but did really enjoy Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I don't see this as being something to where they're just trying to satiate the male fan base who is upset. I think that's one of the reasons, but I think it's a matter of they see the outcry and they're like, we can strike while the iron's hot. I think they're playing off of it, but they're not doing it just because of that. I think they're doing it because obviously they see there is a demand for a male-themed Ghostbusters, and hey, Aykroyd has been wanting to tap into the franchise. The fans want it. Just so many factors came in all at once to where it's the best case scenario is to do this. It gets Sony their expanded universe. It gets Aykroyd the ability to get his franchise back that he can work on, because I think even he was a little bit irritated that Paul Feig basically took the franchise from them, even though he did sign off on it. It gives the fans that are upset that there is a female Ghostbusters, now they have this more, this much closer to the source material adaptation to look forward to. Everybody's happy, and I think with the muscle behind it, it doesn't seem like they're just throwing people at it. I mean, they've got the Russos signed on for now. I mean, that could change. They've got Drew Pearce signed on, who wrote Iron Man 3 and Mission Impossible 5. He's going to be working with Aykroyd. Channing Tatum's producing it, and they're trying to get him to star in it. And this actually goes back to something we learned during the Sony hacks, and something that I actually pulled up. There was actually emails leaked out that actually said that Tatum was actually interested in working with the Ghostbusters franchise, and one name that actually got brought up with him was a friend of Channing Tatum's, Chris Pratt, who is huge right now with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we may be looking at a movie that could have both Channing Tatum and Chris Pratt.
Did you hear that he signed on to something else? So, which I think would debunk those rumors.
What did he just sign on to do?
He's actually signed on with Disney to be the next Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah, I do remember reading that.
Yeah, and he's in the new Jurassic film,
Yeah,
Jurassic
so
World.
they're going to spin that probably off into a few more franchises of movies. So he's going to be very, very busy, and I doubt he's going to be doing Ghostbusters.
Probably,
but
but
what
it's
Miguel said though was on paper, there's effort and response to the love of the genre in this movie. It's not some cobbled together fucking let's just milk the public. It's there's clearly, without wanting to make a really stupid statement, but there's clearly love in this.
Yeah,
project.
it's only the timing that made me go, really? Do you know what I mean? If they waited, maybe first the female-led one comes out and then the male one comes out maybe a year later. It's the fact that they're pushing them out at the same time that makes me really go, wow, And there's a fear of oversaturation, I think, as well.
I think they're going to splay it out
back to back. Well,
I think they're going to be smart enough to splay it.
Yeah.
They should do it in the same summer, right? And they could put the female sign on one and the the Prince male sign on the other. And if you buy the box set when they come out, you can stick them together and they combine.
I think, in my opinion, with Reitman and Aykroyd at the helm, sort of overseeing everything, we're going to see some good content as long as they know not to shoot too far from the hip and also not to rush things. Please,
just get Bill Murray in for at least 2 seconds of dialogue, even if he just goes, "This movie sucks."
I love Bill. I don't care. Bill's awesome. Bill Murray is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I will say this: if he's not signed on, if he doesn't want to do Ghostbusters, I don't want to see him cop teasing anymore. At the end of the day, if he wants to do it. You don't.
He's gonna be associated with the female one that they've been trying to get him for that. I could see him being associated with that one. But yeah, I don't see him wanting to work with Aykroyd for the male version. I mean, that's asking a lot
right now. I can't remember if they reconciled their feud.
I think it was more of an issue with him and Ramis, but I think it extends to the Ghostbusters franchise. I think part of him just kind of wanted to walk away from the original Ghostbusters. I mean, he's coming back now that with the female Ghostbusters, and it's not really about the original. So, like I said, if they do bring him in, it's most definitely going to be with the female side. I highly doubt we're going to see him associated with.
His quote, what was it? When this is going back a few years ago, which was, he said, if they ever make Ghostbusters 3, here's my deal. I'm coming back as a ghost. And that
was just so that he can actually. That was because he didn't want to actually be on set with any of the characters. I think he was basically just posturing.
Yeah, he still had a problem with him and I just see my brain's turning to mush. What's his name? They played Egon. Ramis, thank you. They still had their problems over Groundhog Day because apparently Murray was very difficult to deal with back then.
Yeah, he was a proper prima donna.
But that's the thing. Ramis has kind of worked with him on so many. He's directed with him. He's acted with him in loads of different movies, including Stripes. Directed him in the National Lampoon's movies. He knows Murray. He knows, and the fact that I think with Murray, it's kind of one of those things where he's very cold and hot when it comes to things. He wants to be a more credible and serious actor, and so he'll do everything he can to wrangle out of like these comedic commitments. And I think he sees Ghostbusters as kind of his past. To me, I'm kind of all for him being there, but if he doesn't want to be there, then I'd rather he be out of it and someone else takes the role. At the end of the day, his character can be acknowledged, but he doesn't have to be a part of whatever storyline they've got going on. And as far as I'm concerned, I would love to see where they go in terms of the Ghostbusters, as long as I've said this, before, they acknowledge the existence of the original team.
Yes, I completely concur with that.
Yeah, I that would be nice. I mean, to kind of throw, that was one of my biggest issues with the Paul Feig one, is that they said they were not doing any sort of ties to the source material. I'm almost positive if Dan Aykroyd is involved in this new project, it's going to tie into the source material. So
they don't
maybe this is probably
have a blatant reference or blatant people on screen. It would just for the fan base like us, who people love these movies and grew up with them. It would even just take one tiny little line when they reference something from the original movie, and make it canon in this movie, and that would be enough. That would be enough. Then my brain would just go, now this counts.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's very early right now. I mean, there's even people saying that the Russo brothers might not even be attached to it when it's all said and done, considering they've got Avengers 3 lined up. They've got the third. They've got the upcoming Civil War movie coming out with Captain America. So, I mean, they're in talks to be directing it, but who knows if they're going to be available once they really start picking up the slack for Marvel when that comes out for Disney. So we'll wait and see about it. And that's pretty much going to do it for this news episode this week. I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to do for next week. I had originally planned on doing a director retrospective, but I'm planning on getting a guest. I'm not going to say who yet until I've talked to this guy, but the fact that I've even gotten responses back means that at least there's something that might happen. I'm not going to say what or who because I don't want to get myself in trouble, but this certain director retrospective we'll be doing, I'll push it later down the line.
You know what we could
might do a movie.
Why don't we do a Bill Murray retrospective, because we talked about him a lot on the show.
Mm.
I've always wanted to do one. I've still got to go back and rewatch a bunch of his movies. It's been so long since I've seen Stripes.
Well, what I should say we should do is, why don't we all pick 5 movies each, tally them up, and then we could talk about why each of us actually love those movies. Because I know he's done a lot of movies, but I think 5 movies
That's
each
a good
for each
idea.
of us.
That is a very good idea.
It's up to you, Miguel.
All right.
You get the last call on
yeah,
that.
I'll pick 5 movies. You pick 5, and I guess we'll get together and we'll convene and we'll just pick the most popular ones and we'll talk about them.
We could call it Murray Mania.
Yeah.
No. I think to tie it in with Mr. Burhan, since it was his idea, we have to call it Bill Murray Fortnite episode.
Yeah, and that's what we'll do. We'll basically bring back Bill Murray Fortnite for another. Well, might as well make it because he's got more movies now. So I'll do another Bill Murray Fortnite on Movie File. So I'm going to do 2 weeks worth of Bill Murray movies on Movie File, and we'll also top it off with the Untitled movie show.
So look into that. Yeah, I guess that'll be next week's episode, and then the week after that, we're doing. I would love to be able to do this director the following week. I won't say who, but I'll say one word to kind of top it off, and then after that, we'll go into plugs. Twist, and we'll just leave it at that. Nice. So, for that, Burhan, where can we find you?
YouTube.com/TheNerdGenius. 317 subs now, up from 312. I have to say a great big thank you to everyone who's actually checked out my newest video, which was the 5 gaming facts about you. There was a bit of an audio situation on the video, but Peter's still been well received. People love the fact that I'm back.
doing a response to it, by the way. I'm just a bit behind.
Yeah, people basically love the fact that I'm in front of the camera again, because apparently that's what people wanted. My next video coming up is going to be called 5 Things. So basically it's a top 5 of songs that I listen to on my iPod. So what I'm going to do is basically tell you guys my top 5 songs on my iPod. I'll pop that on there as well. Also check out youtube.com/Megaran. I've just basically done a new video for him called Tips and Tricks 11. The video basically has him talking about sort of life lessons.
Your sexy way to say 11.
11. It's basically him talking about certain moral stuff that he learns while he's on the road doing his thing. And I want to give a great big shout out to him actually at the moment. He has a independent album called Soul Veggies currently it's actually hit a milestone on 4 different chart positions. It's on the Billboard Hot 100. It's on the independent Billboard charts at 45 as well, in the top 50. And I believe it's hit another milestone as well. I'm just trying to find out what that is. I'll tell you that in 2 seconds while I let my Facebook load, because I posted the article here. Check out Soul Veggies on iTunes as well. It's a great album. I'm going to ask him if I can direct the video for one of his songs on there as well. So yeah, it's on the top 50, top 100, and also top 200 on the Billboard charts. It's a milestone. So make sure you check that out, guys. It's, he's not the first artist to do this, but it's from an independent artist who self-promotes, does everything on his own, and has no major label backing. Yeah, you've got to give him his props for that as well. So
yeah, because fuck you, Macklemore.
Exactly. Wait, didn't Macklemore do that himself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-promoted, owned it. Yeah, he was self-promoted, didn't have a studio, #1 album.
Yep. And also the fact as well, he was always considered nerdcore. He was never considered. He was always like considered sort of computer game type hip hop instead of actually hip hop. So he actually branched out from that. He's out. Check out randommusic.com as well, megaran.com.
Plus, also Nick Brandon's phrase, which from wrestling, but is applicable to this, which is people support the independents. They need your love too.
Yeah, and check out the album. It's a hot album at the moment as well. And check out this podcast and all the other podcasts we have on nerdgenius.com. iTunes link for the Untitled Movie Show is coming. I'm pestering Mr. Stephen Richards about that. He's kind of batting me off and waiting for the new site to be up and running, which they've had kind of hiccups, but it is coming. So you'll be able to download the Untitled Movie Show and all other podcasts via their separate iTunes link. So it gives Miguel a lot more credibility in terms of that.
All right, Dave Wade, where can we find you?
I'm going dark again. I didn't last week, but I'm going dark.
Go
Can
ahead.
find me within the deceased soul of a man dying upon his deathbed who's just repented God.
And he says, go to youtube.com/LawnBoysPost 1975. So listen
It's
to the
just
dead
easier
man.
for me to go dark and let Burhan do my plugs.
Yes.
You know what? Next time, Burhan, we're just gonna keep our mouth shut. We're just gonna be like,
Yeah.
all right, Annina, where can we find you?
I'll tell you what. Hang on, quickly. I'll tell you what then, Miguel. On the Untitled Movie Show, I'll be positive from now on. Can I do the opposite of dark and do the overly positive preaching thing?
Hey!
As long as you get your plugs in, that's all I care about, man. I want to make sure people get a chance to see your work.
Burhan to do it for me because technically that makes him my PA.
Well,
whatever works for you guys, but yeah, Lawn Boys Post 1975 on YouTube. Do you have an official YouTube URL now?
Yeah, I do.
All right,
Oh,
youtube.com/LawnBoysPost1975.
You told me how to do it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you had
I
it.
was,
Just
I
so
was
can,
confused,
promote
and
it.
I just get it. The thing is, though, right? Once you get it right, you don't get to see it, but everyone else does, which sounds really stupid. It's not like I want it as a trophy or anything, but if I, get other people in this house to check it, not logged in, they get to see it, but I don't get to see it. It's not fair. I've got to see it for fucking one day.
It pops up as youtube.com/user/LawnBoysPost1975 because I had that issue myself when I was trying to link people's accounts and stuff. That little user bit would pop up, so you just got to take that user bit out. You can just use it.
I thank you for that, Miguel, because it sounds really stupid, people, and I'm not a vain person, but it is awesome to have it. You're just like, yes, finally, at least the internet respects me.
Yeah, I'm still working up on that. Which, by the way, I'll get to that in a second. But Annina, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Annina Kaski. That's ANNINAKASKI. And also, I'm building a website at the moment, so soon you'll be able to find me on AnninaKaski.com. So that's exciting.
What is the content of your website going to be?
There's pictures of my face, and there's
I thought you were just
video
going to say
of
my cat.
face. No, there's just links to my acting website. So all my acting stuff is there. Links to Twitter, Instagram, a bit of a blurb.
I'll make sure
Well, let me know when
I
it goes
add you.
live, and I'll plug it in one of my videos.
Oh, thank you. Here's this random woman's website. Go and see it.
Well, he's got to make up for the strikes, during the show.
Yeah.
I'm digging up now.
Well, you should do it in all your episodes then. All
right.
Anyway.
Now you're my new official sponsor. If you can make a banner, I'll stick you at the bottom
Yeah,
screen.
exactly.
And you can find us here every Wednesday night on youtube.com/UnlimRadio. Are we on Unlim Radio, by the way?
Yes, we are. youtube.com/UnlimRadio. We have no more copyright strikes on the channel because I've beaten them off. YouTube 0, Michael Burhan 3.
That sounds sexy. You beat them off.
I did.
Anyway, YouTube, well, not YouTube, I don't have a link yet, but check out my YouTube channel, the Untitled Movie Show's official YouTube channel. Just do a search for Untitled Movie Show on YouTube. You'll pull up our first few episodes. In fact, I just posted up an episode last night. It was episode 4, where we talked about movie budgets and how after the disaster that was 2013's movie season, where movies were going after that. And there actually is a bit of a notable thing to mention about this episode. It was the debut of one Brandon Ligon. Yes, Slamcast host Brandon Ligon actually made his debut on this episode of the Untitled Movie Show, so check that out on YouTube. Search up Untitled Movie Show. Otherwise, twitter.com/unmovieshow. I post episode links onto there, so follow us on there. I should post up the link to some of the Untitled Movie Show YouTube episodes, so I'll do that. But yeah, follow us on Twitter. Keep it locked here on Unlim Radio for our episode, for the live show of the Untitled Movie Show. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully I can work out the stuff with the guests that we've got lined up. Hopefully I can work on some of the other ideas I've had trying to expand the brand. Oh, and to our wrestling fans, I do want to point this out. If you want some hilarity, go on to facebook.com/Wrestling Revolution. I posted up some very early shows that I did back in 2008, my first attempts at podcasting. I posted up the link to an ancient website.
Ago. Wow.
Yeah, back in 2008 when I was just getting into wrestling, I did my first crack at hosting a podcast. I hosted a show on talkshoe.com called Wrestle Talk Radio. I did 5 episodes. If you want to hear me at my tender age of 20, go to Wrestling Revolution on Facebook and click on the post that I made on there, and it'll link you to the TalkShoe account. You could hear it there. Laugh, love it, whatever you want. I don't care, but it's just a little bit of self-deprecation on my part. So go ahead and check us out there on facebook.com/Wrestling Revolution. For myself, for Michael Burhan, for Dave Wade, and for Annina Kasky, this has been the Untitled Movie Show. Take us out, Jay.
Celebrity voices are impersonated. No celebrities were harmed in filming of this episode.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, Zitface.
Ghostbusters!